Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here with Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals about the 3 things we need to limit in our diet if we actually care about our health. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated, and drop me a comment. Thank you so much. All right, so we get over this topic, and this is stuff that I try to talk about a lot with nutrition, like for me to do what I do. All right, you guys are going to watch me do like 6 reps with 500 pounds on a deadlift here at 48 years old, okay? I run, I do all this other stuff. For me to do what I do, my nutrition and recovery have to be pretty on point. And it's not even about being shredded or a perfect weight loss. None of that. It's just literally health and recovery. So I have a lot of interest in this, and I do tons and tons and tons of nutrition research. And I keep up with all the data and science and trends out there as much as humanly possible with all of this. And I feel like people kind of miss the forest for the trees. They start worrying about, hey, what's the best of their diet? And people who don't even have healthy diets, right, will start worrying about all sorts of things. And they'll worry about things. And I'm not telling you not to worry about these things. What I'm saying is they're the final 1%, okay? So people start worrying about, pesticides in foods, or they worry about GMOs in foods, they worry about red dye, whatever, so on and so forth. I'm not telling you not to be concerned with these things, but this is a case of stepping over dollars to pick up dimes, or in some cases, stepping over $1,000 bills to pick up a penny. So when you say that, people are like, are you saying pennies don't matter? No, I didn't say that at all. I'm just saying $1,000 is a lot more important than a penny is. Focus on the big stuff first. So what are the big things that are problems in our diet? And this is based upon all the available research. And it's like if you just sort these 3 things, 90% of all of your dietary concerns are covered. Like worried about white flour is pretty far down the list. And I don't sit around eating white flour either personally, but I digress. All right, number 1, the big one. This one is blaringly obvious, alcohol. Every single old study that even tried to claim alcohol had any health benefits has been completely debunked, complete nonsense. It's been torn apart in the modern literature as garbage, junk, bias, science, and all sorts of problems, okay? We know that alcohol is absolutely deadly. And the more research that we do, the more that we find that alcohol is linked, even in very small amounts, to major problems. In other words, drinking in moderation is still excessively harmful. Okay, this is the one thing that if you cut completely out, you will be better for it. And where people say, no one does that, yeah, actually tons of people do. Like literally 30 to 40% of Americans do not drink at all. They completely abstain. So no, it's not true that no one does that. Plenty of people do. That's like 100 million Americans don't drink. I'm one of them. So that being said, alcohol, we know in large amounts what it does. It's horrific. Let's not get into the health or the social or the behavioral or the psychology or the accidents or violence. We can set all that aside, just the health. We know the effects on the liver. We know all of that. But what about in moderation? Even in moderation, it's deadly. Okay? Moderation still causes cancer. And people are unaware of that. They haven't kept up with the current data around the world. This is global level research. 1 to 2 drinks a month significantly increases cancer risk. It's one of the most carcinogenic things that we consume. Straight up cancer. Right? Butt cancer, stomach cancer, all these things. Alcohol, even in moderation, can directly cause them. Dementia, like some of the data now is showing that even moderate drinking is a major factor in dementia. Okay, this is a big deal, right? This is in moderation, so there's no safe amount of alcohol. Like the leading researchers are saying, when we're looking at the data, drinking in moderation can absolutely kill you with cancer still. It's actually not even like a really low risk. Like it's pretty significant. Like a couple drinks a month, right? This is top of the list. Like right here, like if the one thing, number 1 right there. All right, the next 2 things are going to be saturated fat and refined sugars. Okay, everyone wants to make it either or. People in both camps always want to blame the other for all these things and pretend theirs is fine. Now, when I say saturated fat, I'm talking in excess. Okay, there's not actually data that moderated saturated fat in a balanced diet is harmful at all. In other words, you can still eat red meat. You can still eat some eggs, particularly if you're eating plenty of fruits and vegetables on a healthy, balanced diet. Sirloin steak or a couple eggs doesn't cause any problems. It's not really a concern for 90% of the population. There are people who are hyper responders to the cholesterol in with eggs, but they're a fairly small demographic genetically. But they do exist. That's why look at your blood work. If you're eating 3 eggs a day and your lipids are out of control, you might want to adjust it. But if you're doing it and they're fine, then carry on. Not a problem. It's very individual. Okay. Some people don't have any negative effects from any egg consumption. Okay, and if you're one of those, hey, great, your blood work will tell you everything. But a large amount of saturated fat's a problem. It's a reason we're told to keep it under 10% of total calories. And if you're someone with a history of heart disease, you're going to need to take it lower than that. But yeah, any significant amounts of saturated fat, if your LDL cholesterol is 100 or higher, you are eating too much saturated fat. Straight up. You are eating too much. And you probably are going to need a statin at that point. And that's pretty well supported in the data at this point. But again, in moderation, saturated fat seems to be perfectly fine. Like if your diet is balanced and healthy, you don't have to be afraid of a little saturated fat. Not really a big deal. In other words, a 12-ounce sirloin a few times a week, probably not a problem in the context of a balanced diet. Okay. Refined sugars, same thing we found. Processed meats too for the saturated fat, but you're always going to be excessive with processed meats, right? Butter counts too. Bacon, sausage, all that stuff. But then refined sugars, same thing. Everyone's like, well, we know in excess it's bad. Yeah, but there's been meta-analysis at this point showing even in moderation, a couple sodas a week, a couple sugary drinks every week is enough to create measurable health problems, measurable risk of diabetes, measurable problems with your liver, right? Accumulation of liver fat, possibly elevating triglycerides. Okay, so even in moderation, refined sugars are a problem. Calorie for calorie, saturated fats in excess are clearly objectively worse than refined sugars when you look at the data. We can measure what happens in the liver. In moderation, though, the refined sugar seems to be worse. It's one of those that you really just shouldn't be eating at all if you go off the data. So these are your 3 big ones, guys. Fix these before you worry about all this other stuff. Like if you haven't fixed these 3 things and you're worried about any of these other things, you're wasting your time. It's a misallocation of resources.